Okay, here's some of the mods I did on this Komet to make it FPV worthy. First thing I did, obviously we mounted the Vista and the camera right there, a 3D printed mount. Hindsight's always 20/20. I probably should have turned it around and put the camera up front, but I thought I might like the camera further back. Probably didn't matter that much because I do like looking out over the nose. The other thing I did was I added a strap back here. This actually has, the end of it right there goes down inside the foamer that far, that's just glued in. And then this just comes back and it's screwed in place. A piece of plywood I ratted out and glued inside there. And then this is a 1024 bolt, which I just use this because I just happen to have this and a 1024 tap, which I've used this before. You know, 4mm would work just fine. I think a 3mm might be kind of small, but a 4mm probably work just fine. The other thing on the hatch, when I was flying it, I mentioned with the videos, is this plastic piece just came loose, which this right here is the, obviously goes in to secure the nose. Well, I thought maybe this stuff was all screwed into the foam or a piece of some sort of hardwood or something inside there, but it's not. Those two screws only screw into that aluminum piece right there. And this little plastic piece, what's holding it all together, is just lightly glued on, and it started peeling back. I'm like, well, we don't need that to happen because the last thing I need to do is lose my camera and stuff. So not only did I glue it back down in with E6000, I went and 3D printed a little plate right there, and then I drilled through there 2mm and put a couple of 2mm screws and the nuts there to not only is it glued on, but it's mechanically anchored, so that way I don't have to worry about it, because the last thing I want to do is lose the canopy hatch with my FPV gear. This one, as I mentioned in another video, was I got this from Hobby King and flew it line of sight the first time. I wanted to see how it was going to fly, and the very first flight I got through about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes or so of flying, and then the motor died. I went, oh, okay, well, the ESC is probably bad, because I did notice it was getting a little warm even when I was just working the servos and stuff. But anyway, I went over and it landed. The VEC kept working just fine until it got on the ground, and then all of a sudden smoke started coming out, and I ran over there and disconnected the battery, and sure enough, it little fire there. It melted some of the foam. The other thing it did was it shorted out. Must have sent a voltage spike back through it. It shorted out all the servos, all 3 servos in this thing. Fortunately, my receiver, which I'm using a different one now because this has got a flight controller in it, it was fine. The motor was fine. But I will say on the motor, it's one of these turnkey motors. The motor runs good, but the wires on this turnkey motor, they're not silicone wires. They're these old types that have got the copper wire inside. So, and they're actually very long. And I cut them back because I used, in this one here, I don't know if you can see it, it's got a fly color quad size speed controller, a 50 amp speed controller in that. And I wanted to shorten all that stuff. So just be aware, if you shorten that, it's kind of a pain to solder those copper wires to get the bullet connectors back on there. So this also has a Speedy Bee F405, the mini wing flight controller on it. It is running iNav 9. We've got iNav 9 release candidate 3 on there. Radio equipment is FreeSky. And I've got a 900 megahertz receiver for FreeSky. There's the antenna for it. And then an M10 GPS right there for the FPV gear. The other thing I made was a little bracket down here to hold the battery in. Originally, what they wanted you to do was run this battery back below the spar back there to hold it down. Well, you got to be able to move this thing around to the CG. But I just simply 3D printed some mounts there. It's got a little cross brace that goes in, so when the battery goes in, that goes on top of it and holds it in place. Go flight with a 2200 milliamp 4S, which is plenty of power, plenty of flight time. Balance is critical on this thing. You can see where I've actually changed out the servos with some Emax servos I had out of the wing. These are digital metal geared servos, and that's a turnkey, older small turnkey digital metal gear servo. I had that put in the tail back there. The balance is 85 millimeters from the leading edge of the root right here where the wing joins. And what I did was I just used a hole punch and punched me out a couple of sticky sandpaper things to put there, so when I out the field, put the battery in, I can put my fingers underneath it and balance it. Put a wheel right there. I saw a guy on a YouTuber that did that. I thought that's a pretty good idea, because that little dolly that comes out, that's kind of a joke. That's just kind of it's kind of neat, but you can watch the videos, you'll find very few people that can actually have a successful launch out of it. This one, after I put the FPV gear in it, did require about a ½ ounce of weight in the tail in order to keep it easily balanced. I cut out a couple of pieces of sandpaper right there so I can grab it and hold it. I had auto launch the first time I took it out. It said 1700, and it auto launched just fine on that. Thought it could have used a few more RPM, so I've upped it to 1750 on the PPM on it, but I haven't had a chance to fly it since then because the weather just hasn't been cooperating with us. But other than that, I've got an APC 6.4 prop on it. I took the black one off that came with it, which is this thing. I mean, I'm sure it probably works okay, but an APC 6.4 works really well. Gives it a lot of power and a lot of speed. Other than that, we put some pieces of Blenderm tape right here, and then up around the deal, just to kind of hold the surfaces in place. Generally, what I like to do in air models with a flight controller is cut these things off and hinge them. Because with a flight controller, the easier that these control surfaces work, the easier it is for your flight controller to react, and the easier it is for the whole thing to work. Well, the problem with this one is there is a spar running right here on the inside, so it'd be very difficult to cut a slot and get a hinge in there. On this airplane, I'm not really worried about it that much, but that is why I put Blenderm tape here. Here, you can't really see them, I'm sure, on camera, here and here, just to kind of keep them from separating. And of course, the same with the rotor back there to keep them out. But that's about it. That's how I've got it set up for FPV, and it seemed to fly just fine. I'll get it out hopefully this weekend. If the wind's not down, do get some more flights on it, because I do need to get it trimmed out some more and do auto tune on it. But the flight I did on the other day, with the goggles on it flew extremely well, extremely well. And for a wing that's, I'm saying it's, I got it on Black Friday sale for, it was a little less than $100 by the time I got all the discounts and stuff for it. I think it sells for $125, something like that. It's a neat little wing. You're just don't use the hobby, that cheap speed controller goes in there, or just, just take your chances with it. Let's just put it that way. Mine didn't last 2 minutes before it went up in smoke. Unfortunately, I got the fire out in time. But I will say this about Hobby King. I did send them the information on it. They sent me another one, so I've got another one of these in the box. Because, like I say, it did take out all the servos. Unfortunately, it did damage my receiver. And it did burn out quite a bit of the foam inside there before I got the fire out.